Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Ilar, the Public Events and Engagement Coordinator for the Communications and Engagement Office at DC Public Schools. Thank you for joining us today for the College Admissions 101. This is a second part to our series for the college strand to help prepare you and your student or your child to feel prepared to apply into college and everything they need to do between now, being in high school, and getting through to college. So if you are having trouble with viewing the presentation today, we ask that you do try logging in and logging back out, just in case if that's an issue. Or you can email us at parentu@k12.dc.gov if you have any issues with viewing the presentation. And a couple of other housekeeping stuff. We have our upcoming Parent University workshops on October 15, supporting students to and through college. That will be next week, Thursday, at 5:30 to 6:30 as well. And then for October 22nd, we have bullying prevention. And so you can sign up for these Parent University sessions at bit.ly/DCPS Parent U RSVP. And we also have upcoming Parent University sessions in November, as well as for the Reopen Strong for Term 2. We are just solidifying some of the logistics for that, and so we should have more information to you out in the coming week. And then if you need access to subtitles or interpretation, we do have an interpreters on for our Spanish interpretation, and that should be included in our Q&A chat for one of our announcements. I believe it's bit.ly/DCPS Espanol if you need Spanish interpretation, where we have one other person and a couple of interpreters helping for Spanish interpretation. And then if you need subtitles, we have subtitles provided in Spanish, French, English, Chinese, Vietnamese, and forgetting one, I believe it is Spanish, if I did not say that already. So if you need access to captions or subtitles, there is a gear icon in the bottom right. Click on that gear icon and then press caption or subtitles, and then you can choose the language that you will need. And then for engaging with us throughout this presentation, if you have not used the Q&A chat feature yet, you can go ahead and use that at the bottom right. You can ask a question anonymously, or you can have the question linked to the account you logged on with. And so throughout the presentation, feel free to put any comments or questions pertaining to College Admissions 101, and we will be trying to answer as many questions as we can, since there's only a couple of us to help you out with any information that you need. And additionally, throughout the presentation, there may be some terminology that you may have not encountered or come across. And so please let us know if there is something that you don't know the understanding of, or need more information, and just put that in the comment box, and we'll try to both answer it through the Q&A as well as live throughout the presentation. And then we have 3 community agreements for both of us on the attendee side as well as for the DCPS central office side. We have assume best intentions, go hard on ideas, not on people, and then accept non-closure. And so as we enter the space, we know today has been a hard day. We're almost to the end of the week, tomorrow being Friday and then the weekend. And so hopefully we can come into this feeling renewed and having all the information and resources that you need to participate, and also to encourage your students to go on to college or to do whatever they need to do after high school. And with that, I do want to introduce Karime Naime. She is our Director of College Prep and Programs at DCPS, first generation college graduate, and her professional career has been focused on providing access, choice, and financial aid guidance to all college-bound students. Prior to joining DCPS, she was the Associate Director of Recruitment and Outreach at the George Washington University, where she led secondary school council relations, diversity recruitment, and the Stephen Joel Trachtenberg Scholarship, a full-ride scholarship for selected DC students. Karime also worked at the University of Rochester in Rochester, New York, the University of Texas at Austin, and Texas Wesleyan University, her alma mater. Karime has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Master of Arts in Higher Education Administration from the University of Rochester, and she brings close to 15 years of admissions experience to the DCPS College and Career Division. And so with that, I would like to bring on Karime.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jerry, for the wonderful introduction. I am so excited to be here today. As you mentioned, it's been a difficult last couple of days, and really, let's be honest, the last difficult couple of months. But I am excited to be here today because, as it was mentioned, I am very passionate about providing information to students and families around the college admissions process. And so that's what we're here today to talk to you about. So whether you are a parent of a 9th, a 10th, or an 11th grader, it is never too early to start learning about the college process. And it can often begin with you, mom, dad, legal guardian, asking your child what they want to do when they grow up. It does not have to be a difficult conversation. It can just be as simple as that. Knowing what careers are of interest to your child is really a good way to start talking about college. And so the objectives as part of our presentation today, the objectives that we are going to discuss are learning college admissions terminology and gain a little bit of an understanding or a better understanding of the college admissions process. So although the college admission process actually begins in the senior year, there are steps that your child can take and that you can help your child into taking along the way to ensure that they're ready and put their best foot forward. So the goal of the next slide is to give you a sense of what your child should be doing depending on where they are on their grade level. If you are a student here tonight, please note that as well. So this image kind of walks you through what are some of the things that you should be doing, whether you're a 9th grader, a 10th grader, an 11th grader, or if you're currently in your 12th grade. There are some things that I want to note on this slide and talk to you all about before we get moving on. First, focusing on good grades. You will notice that grades is a bubble that it's pretty much mentioned in every single grade level. So focusing on getting good grades starts in the 9th grade. And it's not too early to work hard and develop good study habits. It's never too early. So whether you are a 10th grader or an 11th grader who is realizing about the importance of having good grades, do that, focus on having good grades. It's never too late and it's never too early, but grades do matter in the context of the college admissions process. Your freshman and sophomore grades count towards your admissions for scholarships and also your admissions into college. Your class selection also matters. Colleges will look at what classes are offered at your home school, and if your high school offers advanced level classes, or IB classes, or other types of rigorous courses, the colleges are going to want to see that on your transcript. So know what your options are, when those rigorous classes are available to you, and have those conversations with your counselor or your college and career coordinator at your school so that you're well informed as you go through this process. Now, as you enter into the 11th grade, it's important that you review your high school class plan. This is something that you would do with your school counselors. We want to encourage you to take the most difficult classes that you can handle, because this is when colleges start paying closer attention to the type of diploma and the type of high school classes that are available in your home school. So take the most difficult classes that you can handle, stay focused on your schoolwork, and make sure that you're meeting your high school graduation requirements. Another thing that you can do, whether you are in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, or even now in your 12th grade, is research colleges. Of course, the sooner that you can do that, the better, because we want you to get familiar with the different types of college options. There are over 4,000 colleges just in the US alone, and so your options can definitely be endless. You want to make sure that you request materials from schools. So go to schools' websites, research schools in the areas, and request those materials to be sent to you. You can also attend virtual events. A lot of colleges right now, as a result of COVID, are giving college tours, virtual college tours. They're offering virtual information sessions. They're also doing interviews, virtually for their prospective students. So utilize the resources that are available on the college websites and arrange for that college tour when it's safe to do so. We want you to also experience what it's like to be on a college campus. And so when the opportunity becomes available, consider doing that. But also know that, as I mentioned, there are a lot of colleges that are offering virtual campus visits. And so that's also a great way of making sure that you get a sense of what that college looks like. And last but not least, get involved. So that is something that you see as an ask starting in your 9th grade, but it's something that you can begin at any point. Getting involved is important because colleges like to see well-rounded students. So in other words, students who have learned to manage their academic responsibilities and their responsibilities outside of school. So those responsibilities can be being a member of a club. It can mean having family responsibilities because maybe you take care of a younger sibling, or it may mean for you getting involved or giving back in your community. Whatever you decide to do, make sure that you are dedicated and that you do it with passion. The next slide is our 12th grade application timeline. And so as I mentioned earlier, the actual college application process begins in the senior year. So this picture represents some, if not all, of the steps that a student will need to take to complete a college application. Note that depending on the college, some of these steps may not be required. So for example, a college may only require you to submit a high school transcript and test scores, but other colleges may also require you to do that and also submit letters of recommendations and other additional pieces of information. So we want you to understand that regardless of the college that you're interested in applying, you need to do your research and you need to know what exactly that particular college or colleges that you're interested in are going to be asking of you, because not all of the items are going to be required by everybody. So we can go on to the next slide. For the rest of our time together, I will be diving deeper into what the application process looks like, and I'm going to give parents recommendations on what you can be doing to support your child through the process, as well as exposing you to some admissions terminology. And this might be terminology that you are familiar with, or maybe terminology that you're hearing for the first time. So as Jerry mentioned, please don't hesitate to ask for clarification, and I will do my best to describe all of the various types of terminologies. We will also be posting some links where you can find resources and a list of these admissions terminology for your reference after the presentation. So generally speaking, the college application process is broken into two main categories, and those are based on what your child's career interest may be. So it may be a college process that it's a 4-year college process, or it might be a college process that it's a 2-year college process. And that is going to be driven by, again, the careers or the fields of study that your child is interested in. 4-year colleges are programs that lead to a bachelor's degree in a specific area of study. Maybe your child wants to study engineering. Maybe they want to study math or a science. Those would be 4-year colleges those would be careers, that would lead you to applying to 4-year colleges. So students pursue a bachelor's degree in a 4-year college to prepare them for that profession that they're interested in, or the graduate study that they might be interested in. or both. A 2-year degree program most commonly results in an associate's degree. And these degrees may be earned at a community college, a technical school, a vocational school, or other types of institutions that are not for the traditional, or what some of us consider traditional colleges. 2-year programs are great options for many of our students, again, depending on your career interest. You can also oftentimes start your college journey at a 2-year institution and then move out of the 2-year institution into a 4-year institution, if that is the pathway that you end up pursuing. So you can always start at a 2-year and then move into a 4-year, or start at a 4-year and finish your 4-year programs and then pursue the rest of the studies that you may need for that particular profession of interest. So now that you have this understanding between 4-year colleges and 2-year colleges, I want to talk to you guys about the application types, because these applications are based on the different types of institutions that you or your child might be applying to. The common application, the common Black college application, and the coalition application are all types of applications used by 4-year colleges. How you know which application to use is based on the college that you're interested in. Some colleges have decided to require or to be members of the common application, and that means that they only accept the common application for admissions. The common application is the standardized undergraduate college application that is used to apply to college, that is used by more than 800 4-year colleges and universities in 49 states, the District of Columbia, as well as schools in Canada, China, Japan, and many European countries. So that could be the application that you might have often heard of, or that your child might be referring to as they begin the college admissions process, because so many of the colleges are common application members. The common Black college application is an application that is used to apply to approximately 53 historically Black colleges and universities. These are colleges, as I mentioned, historically Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, who are members of this application, who require this application and not the common application or other types of applications to be considered for admissions. The coalition application, it's arguably the most it's the newest application of all. It's accepted, or the membership of the coalition application, it's of about 150 colleges from across the country. Many of the most selective universities are coalition application schools. So a lot of our Ivy schools accept or require the coalition application. The coalition application stands for Access, Affordability, and Success. And as I mentioned, is a relatively new application that about 150 colleges are a part of. It's important that you know what application you got to fill out, because each application is a little bit different. Another category might be the school's own type of application. This might be a quick PDF or a page that you have to download from the school's website. It could also be an application that you do online, again, through the school's website. But this is common for schools that are technical schools, or maybe community colleges who may have their own type of application, or also for-profit schools. And paper, even though it's not as common anymore, when we returned to in-person school one day, we would go back to a place where we would have college representatives visit our high schools and meet with our students. And sometimes when we receive These visits, our representatives will bring their own paper application and ask students to fill out their form in person. And so it is possible that a school asks a student to fill out a paper form, and it's not one of the other applications that I mentioned earlier. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of application materials. Okay, next slide, please. Great. So here under application materials is the different forms or materials that are generally asked of a student when applying to college. The application might be the most obvious, but it is oftentimes something that students forget to click the actual submit button. So it is very, very important that as you begin the application process, you also set goals to finish the application before the school's deadline, and that you actually submit that application and receive confirmation that your application was in fact received by the college. The application process or the application itself contains a lot of really useful information for colleges and universities across the country. It will ask information such as your biographical information, cultural and ethnic background, but it will also ask information about your school. It may also ask information around your interests, what major or what area of study are you interested in pursuing? And it may also have other questions, other personal questions that the colleges may want to know of their applicants. The transcripts, regardless of what type of institution you end up applying to, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year institution, the transcript is going to be the one item that I would say across the board you will be asked by everybody. The transcript is a reflection of your academic success, your academic progress while in high school. And colleges use the transcripts to look at your grade point average, your GPA, to look at the types of classes that you decided to take, and to also look at your trends. So for example, you could have maybe started a really strong year in 9th grade, but things happened along the way, and maybe your grades have gone a little bit of an up and down. And that is a trend that the college is interested in seeing. They're gonna wanna know what happened. And so if your grades have fluctuated or if they've gone up and down, the colleges are gonna ask that question. What happened? What can you tell us about that? And I always encourage students and families alike to encourage their students to be vocal about that narrative. College representatives want to know rather than assume what happened, especially when there is a story to tell. So start thinking about what your story is in the context of your transcript and be able to tell that story as part of the application process. Other things that can be found on your transcript are also your attendance, and like I said, the level of rigor that you might have pursued in high school. This is important for those of you who might be at application schools or at schools where there is an IB diploma, and at schools which most of our schools offer advanced placement classes. Colleges always want to see that students have found a way to challenge themselves by choosing classes that are rigorous. And these are some of the classes that DCPS offers. Test scores is another piece of the application process. Test scores are SATs or ACTs. We, as DCPS, have historically been able to offer SAT to all of our students while in high school. But of course, due to COVID, things have had to change. And also as a result of COVID, many colleges have gone test optional. Test optional is a policy that colleges have adopted where they no longer require test scores as part of the admissions process. This means that if a school in the past has previously asked for a minimum score or has asked for an actual score, they no longer may be requiring that, which actually allows you to show the colleges the other strengths that you can bring to their class as part of their transcript and as part of the rest of the application. So test scores at many institutions, including our most selective institutions, are no longer required. That is important to know because it is not a disadvantage. It is something that many colleges have decided to do in an effort to increase access to all of our students and to ensure that test scores do not become a barrier in the admissions process. Another aspect of the application is the essay, the letters of recommendation, and the resume. I often talk about these three together because it's how a student is able to tell their story outside of their numbers. The numbers being that transcript and the grades. Essays, letters of recommendation, our resume, and the resume are individual and very important aspects of the application, and they're very unique in its own. An essay or a personal statement allows the student to share a story to the college, and the college then in turn gets to know the student on a more personal level. Essays should be well written, they should be proofread, and someone at your school should be guiding you through the process. An essay is not something that is done overnight, and it's in fact something that you can start writing and working on as early as your 11th grade. At DCPS, we also have resources available to all of our students outside of the English classroom through our partnership with Story 2. And it is, which is a partnership that allows students to receive feedback on their college essays and to also attend different boot camps and sessions around how to write an effective and successful college essay. If you have not heard about Story 2 through your classes, or if this is the first time that you are hearing about it, let us know. Go back to your English teachers, ask them about how you can get connected to this resource, or even just Google Story 2. They will be able to answer a lot of the questions that you may have about what Story 2 is and how they can support you through the process. But DCPS has partnered with Story 2 in order to ensure that our students receive the quality feedback and quality work in regards to their college essay as it relates to the college admissions process. Now, letters of recommendation are often asked by colleges to get to know a little bit more about your character beyond what is on your personal statement. So oftentimes, a letter of recommendation is written by a counselor or written by a high school teacher. A college will tell you if they require different types of letters of recommendation, if they only require a high school counselor letter of recommendation, or how many of those they require. But letters of recommendation really paint the full story of who you are as a student, because when it's written by a teacher, they provide information about your performance in the classroom, and they allow they shed information about who you are as a student and who you are as a student that is helping other peers in their classroom. A letter of recommendation from a counselor also talks to the college about your involvement, how you are, who you are as a student, and it also describes characteristics or traits that you possess as an individual in order to help you stand out in the admissions process. The resume is the list of activities that you decided to be involved in as part of your high school journey. Your resume might be a combination of all of the activities that you did in high school, maybe the club, maybe a list of the clubs that you were a part of. If you played a sport, what sport you played and for how long. And it should also include information such as your work history. If you've worked through high school, you should be disclosing that information. And if you have other responsibilities at home, you should also be listing those responsibilities as part of your resume. So that could be anything from, helping your parents take care of your younger children or your younger siblings, excuse me, or maybe if you have children of your own as a student, you could also disclose that information as part of your resume. And last but not least, the application fee or a fee waiver if you are eligible for a fee waiver. You want to make sure that if a college is asking for all of these materials, that every single one of those materials is submitted on time by their admissions deadline. We can move to the next slide. Okay. So what are the different types of college admissions? So you can apply to college under different types. You can apply under early decision, early action, open, regular, rolling admissions, or single choice early action. The difference between the different types of admissions is whether an admissions type is binding or not binding. That is the most important thing that you want to understand today. The decision type that is binding, it's the early decision. Early decision is a binding agreement between the student and a college. If your child is admitted under early decision, the student agrees to attend that college no matter what. Students can apply to one college under early decision, and if they are accepted, they also have to withdraw all other applications to other colleges. I often describe early decision as a dating game. You want to apply early decision to the school that you are absolutely in love with. If that is your favorite school, your dream school, the school that you see yourself going to no matter what, you can consider applying early decision. But also know that if the school admits you, you are expected to attend that school no matter what. And when I say no matter what, I mean no matter what type of scholarships, no matter what type of financial aid they offer. So it is important that as you make the decision to apply early decision, that you have that conversation with your school counselor and with your parents. There is an additional application material that the students have to submit as under early decision, and that is the actual binding agreement, which you the student have to sign, the parent or legal guardian has to sign, and the school counselor has to sign, because as I mentioned, it is a binding contract. Under early action, there is an option for students to apply early, but it is not binding. So this allows the student the opportunity to find out much earlier whether they've gotten into a college or not. If you are accepted under early action, you're not required to enroll in the college. You just learned earlier about that decision. Now, not every college has an early action deadline, so it's important to research if a college has early action, and if you want to find out early from that college about what that decision could be, then apply early action. Most early decision and early action due dates are going to start happening in the month of November. So it is really important that you look at your college list and find out what is the due date for each of these options if the school happens to have an early decision or an early action option. One thing that I forgot to mention is that early decision can actually happen in 2 rounds. A college may have an early decision fall deadline, and they may also have an early decision winter deadline. That is in case that, in the winter months, you decide that that school is now your first choice and you now want to apply to that school early decision, then you're able to move your application type to early decision if that is now the school that you're most interested in. But again, know that it's a binding option. Open admissions is a it's where a student applies and meets all of the requirements for the college and you get in, no matter what. This can often be found at schools like community colleges or other institutions that may say, if you have this GPA, whatever that minimum GPA is, you're gonna get in no matter what. It is commonly offered, like I said, by community colleges and also some online schools, because their enrollment numbers are not like impacted by overcrowding issues. The other reason why other colleges are not able to guarantee admissions to all students is because of they receive more applications than the number of students that they can accommodate. And that's why it becomes very difficult to predict whether you're going to be able to get into college or not. And that's why it's important that you do your best foot, that you put, your best foot forward in the process. Single choice early action is for students who would like to take the advantage of finding the admissions decision early, which is typically around mid-December, but without it being binding. So it's kind of like early action in the sense that you find out early, but it's kind of like early decision in the sense that you can only apply to one school under single choice early action. Now, it is not binding and you do find out early about the decision. So that is definitely a plus for the schools that offer it. That could be a really good choice for some of you. Rolling decision and regular decision, I did not skip on purpose, but I wanted to leave them last because rolling admissions means that it relies on a first come first basis when reviewing applications. So the sooner you apply to a college, the sooner you will hear from them, the more chances you will have of getting in if you apply earlier, because they are constantly reviewing applications on a rolling basis. And so those acceptance letters are sent continuously. There's not a time frame by when all of the college applications are reviewed because they happen in the moment in which your application is completed. Regular decision is the most common kind of college admissions. At DCPS, most of our students apply regular decision, and that is totally okay. Regular decision is a type of application that schools set a specific due date. That specific due date may be December, it may be January, it may be February. You need to find out what the college's regular decision deadline is. And based on that deadline, that college begins reviewing those applications after that deadline. What that means is that every application is compared to the other applications that are received by that college, and that there is no acceptance or rejection letter that is sent out after, that is sent out before. So all acceptances and all rejections letters are sent out at the same time, which is typically around the month of March. And that is because the college looks at all of the students that apply to that college with a fair and equitable lens. And so they hold on to see who else is applying until the very last day of the application deadline in order to then select students from that applicant pool. That is the most common type of application. Now, application deadlines. It is important that you understand the different types of deadlines, right? A college may ask you to submit application materials by a specific date, and they may also ask you, to submit the materials by a different date. An example of that might be a college may ask students have to apply by, for example, October 15. Materials can be received by October 30th. I'm just making that up, but it's just an example. So there are colleges who will ask or will give you the opportunity to submit your application during one period, and then you have extra time to ensure that all of your other materials are received by the college. There are colleges that will say you also have to submit your application by a specific date, or your application needs to be time-stamped by a specific hour and day of the day versus a received type of application. Most colleges technically go by a postmarked or timestamp, meaning that if their application deadline, for example, is January 5th, you have until January 5th at 11:59 p.m. to submit that application and be considered for admissions. I would never encourage you to apply until the very last minute, because in my experience in working at all of the colleges that I worked at, the systems would often crash right around the 11:30 p.m. And that was because so many students would wait until the very last minute to click that submit button. And unfortunately, if you run into a situation where an application site crashes, there is not going to be much that the college is going to be able to do for you. So know about the importance of deadlines and know the distinction between submitted, when the application is submitted and when the materials are submitted, and then also whether a college will have a postmarked or a received deadline. The other thing that is very important to know is that you should not confuse the scholarships and financial aid deadlines with the admissions deadlines. They are very different, and those deadlines can be completely different from one another. You would think, and oftentimes, that the admissions deadline is earlier, but that is not always the case. So there might be colleges out there who have a scholarship deadline that is before the regular admissions deadline. And if you are someone who is trying to apply for scholarships, you would want to ensure that your scholarship information is submitted by the scholarship deadline. So do not confuse scholarships and financial aid deadlines. Know that deadlines can be very different from one another, and they're definitely different from college to college. So my recommendation is that you have a list of schools, whether it's on paper or on your computer, and that you put the name of the school and then the different types of deadlines so that you know to not miss any deadline. Next slide, please. Questions?
Hi, Karime. Actually, I think we don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
So I think for timing purposes, we can keep moving forward and then wait for questions towards the end.
Great. I can keep going. Thank you so much, Jerry. All right. So the next section is to actually take a deeper dive on the review process. Up until now, I've kind of been going a little bit slow because I wanted to make sure that you understood the differences in all of the admissions lingo, and that you had an opportunity to really sort of understand what we mean by different applications types and the different types of colleges and applications that are out there, because it can definitely be confusing. For the next couple of slides, we're actually going to sort of get an understanding of how colleges conduct the admissions review process or the selection process. In a lot of colleges and universities across the country, there is a process, the review process is called the holistic review process. The holistic review process is an emphasis on the student as a whole. So it's not just a review process based on their academic achievements, and it is instead a process that factors in the qualitative aspects of the students as much as the quantitative factors. This goes back to one of the earlier slides where I was talking to you all about application materials, and I mentioned that there will be colleges that may ask you for an essay or for letters of recommendation or for that list of extracurricular activities. Those are the qualitative factors. We can move to the next slide. That's how colleges break out your college application. For the colleges that are going to be conducted a holistic review process, which is arguably probably the most difficult concept to understand because there is a lot of ambiguity. For those colleges, they're going to break your application into two parts: the qualitative aspect of your application and the quantitative aspect of your application. The qualitative is the essay or that personal statement, the letters of recommendation, the resume, and the list of activities, as well as your application, because it's what paints a picture of who you are outside of just your GPA. This was my favorite part when I reviewed thousands and thousands of applications, because it's what really made me feel like I was getting to know a student. And that's why I worked in college admissions for so long, because I really wanted to help students find that right college for them. The qualitative information that you're asked to submit allows college representatives to really make that decision for you and to really try to get to know you as best as possible, so that when the decision outcome is made, it is hopefully in your favor. Now, the admissions process is competitive, and so the admissions outcome may not always be in your favor. But what I would encourage you to do is to do your best and to put your best foot forward. If you do that and you are at peace with the type of application that you submit, that is all you can do, right? Because colleges will accept thousands and thousands of applications, and they're not going to have enough seats for everybody. And that was also something that was very difficult for me, coming across students that were great students academically, but I would have to say no to because there were other students that were just as great, or there were other students that stood out more in the process. And so know that the qualitative factors are super important as that transcript and as important as the test scores if they are required. Don't walk away from a college that is asking you to submit an essay because you just don't feel like writing an essay. Don't walk away from a school that is asking you to submit a letter of recommendation. There are supports and systems in place within your high schools. We've partnered with other organizations, as I mentioned earlier, to help you be successful in this process and to encourage you to apply to more colleges that actually are looking at you for who you are beyond your grades. Now, there are still a really good number of colleges that are going to only look at your GPA and your test scores. And for those colleges, that is an okay process. If you are interested in a college that requires only test scores and that transcript, then you don't have to do all of this extra work. For scholarships, you might need to, but for the colleges that only required the transcript and a test score, it is a straightforward admissions process. So they do not factor in that qualitative information. They only look at your GPA for what it is, your test score for what it is, and they often just take the students that are at the top, the students with the best grades and the students with the strongest SATs. And in a college where the qualitative factors are considered, you will see that there are going to be students with a perfect GPA get admitted, students with below the average GPA get admitted, and a mix of students across the board, because while grades are important, grades are not the end all be all for that college, and they're also factoring your story. Now, the quantitative factors, as I already mentioned, is the transcript, the test scores if they are required, but again, remember that so many colleges are test optional. The transcript does look at your GPA. Know that many colleges will recalculate your GPA, and it will look at the curriculum that you decided to take. If your high school offers different types of diplomas or they offer different types of curriculums, the college is going to find out that information, is going to want to know that. The next slide talks about DCPS grading policy. in the context of college admissions. As a result of COVID, DCPS has updated their statement on grading guidance. I want to allow you some time to read this slide because it's very text heavy, and give you the space to think about what that means in the context of college admissions. I also apologize if you're listening to something in the background, but my dog seems to be playing. So what you see here in the statement is that DCPS has decided that for students who have earned a C or a D, that grade on the transcript will show as a P instead of an actual C or an actual D. Now, as a student or as a family, you have the choice to actually disclose the C or the D if you want to. But know that the default is that all of our C's and all of our D's on our transcripts will be disclosed as P's, as passing grades. You need to know also that as the C's and the D's are displayed, they do count towards their GPA. If you do decide that your C's and your D's need to be disclosed, they do count towards your GPA. If you stay with just a P, then that GPA or those grades actually become GPA neutral. And we also, for students who have earned I's, your I's will also show on your transcript, and you have been given a window to then turn that I into an actual grade. We're now going to go to the next slide to talk a little bit about what that means in the context of college admissions. We've been talking to many of our college and university partners about the impact that our grading policy may have. And so we actually are equipping you with the information that we've been hearing from our partners. And we also want you to make the decision on whether you should have that P on your transcript or whether you should choose to disclose your C's and your D's. What we want you to think about is whether the grade that you earn actually and accurately represents your work in class. In other words, does that 75 or that 77 that you may have earned, does that accurately represent your work? Is the grade consistent with your first semester grade in the class in that particular subject? Before we went to COVID, and even now, this is the DCPS grading policy that is now in place as a result of COVID since last spring into this next term grades and on. We also want you to think about whether a P would negatively impact your application. So if the person reviewing your application assumes that a P on that transcript is really low or the worst than what you actually did, is that something that could negatively impact you? In other words, an admissions officer could think that that 78, that 79, because it's a P, could actually be a 65. If you don't want that, then you can opt for your C's and your D's to actually be shown on your transcript, and that will be the transcript that DCPS will send to colleges and universities. If you want to stick with just P's on your transcript, after you study these scenarios and the questions that we need you to reflect on, then you do not need to do anything. Your transcript will be sent as is, but we still want you to be informed and know that these are the questions that colleges and universities have asked us to share with you so that you can make an informed decision on how you want your transcript to be disclosed. We're going to go on to the next slide. And so if you fast forward to when colleges start making admissions decisions, these are the different types of admissions decisions. You can be admitted, which is congratulations, you did it, all your hard work paid off, you are now in. And that is ultimately what we hope all of our students' outcomes ends up being. Conditional acceptance means that you are admitted under certain conditions. So it's dependent on other factors. A college may ask or may say, we are going to admit you conditionally. In order to accept you, you may need to do a summer program with us. You may have to graduate with a certain GPA. So there might be conditions with that acceptance letter. It's still a congrats, yay, you got in, but you gotta do the other steps or meet the other conditions that that college is asking you to do in order to fully start school when you are expecting to start school. Denied is an outcome that some of you will experience, and that is, of course, that you were not accepted or selected for admissions at that university. Remember, there are thousands of applications that are received by colleges, and they simply don't have the space for everyone. It does not mean that you were not good enough. I want you to remember that, because that's what I always told students and families when I worked in college admissions. Just because you didn't get admitted into a college doesn't mean that you are not good enough. It just means that the competition was tough and the outcome was not in your favor. Deferred admissions, or a deferred decision, isn't quite rejected, but it is an option that colleges have for students that apply under early decision or early action. That is the right that a college has, which means that they're not going to give you an admissions decision at the time of your application, and instead they're going to wait until they see updated grades from you from your senior year. So if you apply early decision or early action to a school and you receive a deferred decision in the month of December, typically, that doesn't mean that you're in. That means that they want to see senior grades. So remember to follow up with the school and provide them with the information that they're asking you to submit in order for you to be given consideration. At that point, when you are deferred, you are moved into the regular decision pool and you are considered with all of the other students that are applying for admissions to that college. Waitlist means maybe. Being on the waitlist typically means that you are in a holding pattern with that institution. They don't have a space for you, but should a space become available, they want to know if you are interested in being on the wait list. There are some colleges that will ask you to fill out a form to express your interest on the wait list. There are colleges who may offer you wait lists, but will not necessarily have a process to guarantee that you get off the wait list. What I always encourage families to do with those waitlist offers is to have your backup plan. Do not just wait until you hear from that college, even if that is the college of your dreams. Do not just wait and hope that you're going to get off the wait list, because that could or could not happen. And I would hate for you to miss out on other opportunities from the other colleges that may have accepted you. And so don't just wait to hear from the college, because a lot of the times waitlist students do not hear about a space being available for them until very late into the summer, right before classes start. And so it is important that you come up with a backup plan. That is all I have for you all today. I know it was a long presentation with a lot of admissions terminology, but I hope that you found this presentation useful, and that is something that you can go back and refer to it as you are supporting your child through college. There is a lot more tips that I can give you on how to support your students through the process, and I'm happy to either spend some time answering some of those questions now or follow up with anybody that would like to reach out to me. We will post my email on the chat box for anyone that wants to follow up after this presentation. Jerry, are there any questions?
Yeah, we have two questions. One
Great.
question is on the grading policy piece. If a parent has seen one of the grades and it was a P, who should they contact at the school or with DCPS central office to see what that grade is, or just have any questions about their transcript or report cards.
Absolutely. Your first point should be your school counselors. School counselors can continue to have an in-depth conversation with you about this policy. If you do want the P to be swapped for the actual letter grade, there is a form that the students and the families will want to fill out and give that form back to the counselor so that the request is made on the correct transcript being sent to the college. So reach out to your school counselor. If you do not know who your school counselor is, feel free to reach out to us at the college prep team and we can point you into the right direction. But definitely utilize your school counselors when it comes to this, as they are the ones that have the form.
Does that mean the same if a student wants to request a grade change, or is there a different level for that?
That is the same. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And then I guess for upcoming events, I know the school year looks a little different. I know a lot of schools have done a lot of college career fairs or college fairs, and some colleges have done on-the-spot admissions. What can students look out for this year in terms of doing some type of engagement event with colleges, or just getting to know what their options are, whether they're in 9th grade or even trying to figure out the rest of their senior year?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what grade level you're in. You should be engaging and checking out colleges at any time. Now, listen, I know that you're super busy. You have school, you have family, a lot is going on. But the really good thing that has come out of COVID is that colleges and universities across the country have really come together to support students through the process. So you can Google almost any college that you can think of, and you will find on that college website information around virtual events, college fairs, or any types of support that that college may have for you. Additionally, I encourage you to check out our DCPS Goes to College website, because we have a lot of virtual events information listed there. We have also partnered with a lot of area high schools, charter schools, and some of the independent schools in this area to actually put together a series of college events in the month of October. We recently sent out that flyer to our 11th and 12th grade families, but that if that is something that you're interested in learning more of, we can actually post a flyer in the chat box for families to see. And we are bringing colleges to you, whether it's college admissions panels or individual colleges to talk to you. We do not want the virtual learning space to become a barrier in your college search process. There is a lot that is happening in the month of October and almost every day this month, so that you can learn about different types of colleges and universities. So check out that flyer, check out the DCPS Goes to College website, and also look up the different colleges that you might be interested in the event that we don't have that information listed on our website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karime. I know we're a little bit over time, but I think I just need 30 seconds to share upcoming events. And Karime, thank you again for sharing all of that information. I know it was a lot of lengthy presentation pieces, but it's definitely super helpful for parents who just don't know how to navigate the college admissions process. So thank you for joining us today and presenting that information.
Thank you, Jerry.
For parents, we do have 2 more workshops, one specifically for supporting your student to and through college. So not just getting them to college, but what does that look like after they're in college, and how do we support our students and our kids to making sure that they can graduate college on time. And then for October the 22nd, we have bullying prevention as with our, I believe, one of our central office teams who will be leading that on October 22nd. And to sign up, it's at bit.ly/DCPS Parent U RSVP. And then if you have any questions about Reopen Strong or Term 2, please visit dcpsreopenstrong.com for additional resources, as well as previous Parent University workshops. To let us know how we did, please go to the bit.ly link for Parent eval19 for a quick survey. And then for additional questions or ideas, email us at parentu@k12.dc.gov. And for this presentation and recording, you can find this at bit.ly/DCPS ParentU vids, VIDS, on YouTube. And we hope you have a great evening. Enjoy your weekend. And if you have any questions, please contact us and we can share this information to you all. Thank you for joining us tonight.